I have doesn't have, well, it covers up the back cameras. So, despite the fact that I'm going down a very nice and beautiful stretch of road, it's a very beautiful day. You can't see it really. You can see that there's fields right beside me. But it's nice, beautiful clouds. It rained this morning. Rained yesterday. It'll probably rain quite a bit this week. But too bad you can't enjoy the scenery like I'm enjoying it. Anyways, also you may notice a little bit of sound noise. There is very little I can do about the car that I have now, which if you've seen my older videos where I was driving and commenting on things, talking, it was definitely a different car. And the car that I have now is one much smaller, two a bit noisier, in that this thing is like minimally designed. It's not designed for comfort. It's designed to get you from A to B, and it's not designed to be like some kind of powerhouse thing. It's one of those little mini smart cars. So it's fine for the city. Definitely go between cities, but I mainly got it as a gas saver. Not much insulation, so quite noisy and quite a bit of the time. But hopefully it's not too bad. Hopefully, if I do notice that it's too bad, I will be able to clean up a little bit in post-effect editing. What's been on my mind? Well, as you can see, I've been posting a lot of garbage. I'm sorry about that. Though, quite a few of you enjoy it, I suppose. It's a fun background noise. That's going to slow down mainly because, well, only so many topics come up in those kinds of discussions. There's only so much of the same stupidity that I'm willing to, beat through, and that people are willing to listen to. And there's not like anything that gets more advanced in the general topics of God and atheism, basic epistemology, basic morality, and all that jazz. Most people won't be engaging those on that server where I have those discussions and debates, if you can call them that. Mainly because those places are mainly introduction places. People are only on the introductory level, so I'm not going to be able to get out much from that. Unfortunately, it did not dawn on me to record things months ago, because there were some discussions on topics that you have not yet heard of, like the topics on God, the topics on truth, which did occur, but at the time I didn't think that you were allowed to actually record in that server, and I was informed that no, you are. So those conversations, which were only about a few, literally there's only about 3 discussions. One of them was one that was relevant on God, the other 2 were relevant on the concept of truth and epistemology. The ones on truth were all bad, so the one on God was actually decent. For everything else, it's mostly garbage on that server, so insofar as I may think that something is entertaining, I might upload it, but I've also just gotten a bit bored of going there, so I haven't been going to that server. That being said, I will try to get a couple of record discussions, particularly on the concept of truth. What the hell is this guy doing? Sorry, somebody going very slow. get people to slow down and just listen to, as opposed to say the God thing. Even then, like, most of the discussions won't be necessarily like shit. A lot of people just don't want to slow down and listen and think about what you're saying. And obviously, I'm not there to listen to them. Why would I be there to listen to morons and people who are on the basic introductory level as if like they're interesting to me? And they're not interesting to me. And then, of course, you know, that pisses people off. People are like, why don't you, like, you're so, like, self-centered and you're so close-minded. You know, like, this is supposed to be some open discussion forum. And I'm like, that may be the case for you. It's not the case for me. And when I get to make my own rooms, I get to make the rules. And I'm there to discuss what I want to discuss. I'm not there to discuss what you want to discuss. In those cases, you're there to talk to me. I'm not there to talk to you. We'll see about that. I posted there earlier today, yesterday I think, just as I have those discussions about moral ontology, in which I posted the formal arguments that I generally outlined out of those discussions, and I also posted the formal arguments generally outlining the discussions, stuff that went on in discussions, if you will. I posted a thing on God, showing my proof of God, as well as the proof of personality of God. Like I said, I've had one discussion where I originally discussed those things with somebody, and it's from that discussion that the thought of those arguments came about. And originally, those kinds of things, honestly, just come up out of the blue. I don't pre-think them. I don't have these arguments that I'm trying to work out in my mind about these things. This may seem shocking and unbelievable to people, but that's just the case. On many things, I will be asked something that I've never thought about before in a certain way, and yet I will synthesize something out of it, which is impressive even to me. Even I am surprised at how fluidly a lot of this stuff comes, to the point where it feels like magic. You know, and if you think that you think your own thoughts, rather, thinking is not the proper thing. If you believe you think your own thoughts, something like this happening is a sure tell that you definitely don't. Because I'm not actively doing anything. Like, I'm really not. I'm not. These things just come to you, wave after wave, concept after concept. And it's just making sense. And that's just how it is. It just comes out smoothly, like almost complete. As it is, I don't stumble, I don't have trouble going like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I do know what I'm trying to say, and I say it in ways that are intelligible to me, and the problem then is, how do I make it intelligible to somebody else? Those arguments that I've posted, all those arguments were things that I originally just thought on the spot, almost complete, verbatim in the way that I posted them. In posting them, but like writing them down formally, I've actually had more trouble. Because in the fluidity of conversation, things are actually easier to organize by the context of what a person is asking and how they're responding to the things that you say. Whereas in a formal argument, I'm kind of guessing. Well, I'm not kind of guessing, I am guessing. About what somebody may understand by a certain something and what qualifications I have to make about what I'm saying. It's a very, very torturous process in trying to be parsimonious and condense what I'm saying to the most minimal points, while also taking into account that what is intelligible to me is not necessarily intelligible to other people. And I'm guessing about how much another person may understand by what I say. So why am I talking about how fluid this stuff comes, and that the fact that I don't pre-think it and it just comes seemingly spontaneously? This is an artifact, an effect of having a holistic, grounded, systematic, cognitive way of thinking. And, you know, if you have a groundwork in which you know how reason operates, if you know the basic gist of being, any being that you're asked about, you will immediately start organizing and cognizing in a proper manner, which is not going to be contradictory to what you have prior set up in your system. So I never worry, not once, not ever, about the coherence of what I'm saying with other things that I may believe. I have yet to encounter a single time in which I have had a contradiction of this sort. I apologize that it's got a bit noisier, but the road style has changed. Although the road looks beautiful, nice, clean, paved black road. And now I've gotten to a point in which I've reached the clouds, and it is probably raining here. Well, that's good because I love the rain. I love driving in the rain. The other day it was raining in the afternoon. I went out for like about an hour and a half walk with my umbrella because I like the rain. I like the aesthetics of the rain. I like walking in the rain. I don't get to walk in the rain very often. It's been a long, long, long time. It's been over a decade, I think. And it wasn't that enjoyable because it was raining hard when I got out, and then about 5 minutes later, it slowed down to a very, very simple sprinkling, and you don't get to hear the pitter patter of the raindrops on the umbrella. It's not that enjoyable. It still was nice. And here, I'm actually going through a stretch going up the mountains, and originally it seemed like it was clear. I didn't think that I was going to head it directly under the clouds and it'll be raining. And I thought I might go up to the point in which this road gets high enough that there is snow. And I would actually go and traipse a bit around in the snow. So I kind of came a little bit ready. I got my heavy jacket in the back, and I put some my hiking boots, because everything else I have is breathable tennis shoes, which you don't want with cold stuff. But anyways, the point is, continuing the train of thought, I don't ever have issues of a contradiction or an incoherence with prior things that I have built up in my system. Ever. This may seem surprising to you. You're like, no way, Douglas, that's impossible. Come on. Nobody's that coherent. And it's not that I'm even trying to be coherent. It's just like I have a coherent way of thinking, which it naturally happens. The Legos snap themselves together. Like, well, what am I going to do? They snap one way and they snap only one way. And whenever I get something snapping, it snaps. What am I supposed to do about that? I have been regimented and informed due to the discipline of Hegel's philosophy into thinking in a way in which that's just not going to happen. Of course, other people might think that I'm contradicting myself about so-and-so, but Hegelianism, it looks contradictory to everybody else, and it is contradictory, but only under a certain finite understanding of contradiction. Contradiction in a much higher sense is perfectly fine and perfectly intelligible. bite. That's one of the benefits of Hegelianism, I would say. Anyways, let's see, what can I discuss? Somebody asked me if I could just do a commenting overview of the formal arguments I laid out. I already did one in which I was going over it with somebody else on Discord. Regarding with the free will ones, literally, because I was reading right out of those, and they said that they found it very helpful. So, what about, now I'm heading into the real rain. I don't know if you can hear that. I hope it gets heavy. The heaviest rain I've ever had was when I was truck driving, going through, say, Colorado. Yes, that's the stuff. That's the stuff right there. I love it. Don't get enough heavy rain down where I'm at. Well, no, we get rain of this intensity if you're driving, but I like the heavy rain, even when you're standing still. You can still hear it because it's that heavy. The heaviest rain I've had was in Colorado, to the point where even if you have the wipers going, you can't see shit. You just see blobs of light in front of you. And people are still going at 50 miles an hour, and you have to go along with them too. In a semi-truck, which is scary. But you do what you do. You can't slow down and beat traffic. Although, when they were going 50, I went on the slow lane, and I'm like, fuck that, I'll go 40, and if they want to pass me, they can just go on the other lane. Anyways, so I did the one on free will. I can discuss the one on truth, because the one on truth is actually quite short, comparatively at least, and it's not even a set of arguments. Well, it is, but I have done the slides for it, the ones that I posted. It's not really set up as a syllogistic set of arguments. I could do that, but that makes it harder to communicate, and it comes off as less intelligible than it actually is if you just talk about it and mention what it is. Give me a second to adjust my air. Where I'm coming from, it was 60 degrees, but it felt like 80 inside the car, so I had to let my air on. And then now I'm heading to the mountains. I'm in the clouds. Probably going to head up high enough that I'm going to be in the fog. And now it's getting a bit chilly. Setting the air to be a bit warm. Anyways, okay, truth. Here's a basic view and critique of common sense, layman views of truth on the philosophical level. And to be quite honest, I don't think there is any deeper philosophical level of this to actually be discussed as worth much. Insofar as people have a correspondence theory, I don't care how it is that they end up qualifying the correspondence theory and what epistemology they have for it and what their ontology is. It does not matter to me. A correspondence theory is a correspondence theory, and all correspondence theories have a certain problem. The same thing for any coherence theory. As a coherence theory, they have a problem. And when you're talking about truth as ontological, say you get somebody like Heidegger or Fichte. Listen to that. Now that's getting heavy. I'm not even going that fast, but that is getting heavy. And you definitely get somebody like Hegel. Oh yeah. Oh, got a little bit of hail here. We got to be a bit careful, and I'm going to try to speak up. We'll see how far we actually make it with it. You know, like if I get to the point where like, you know, this is kind of like I'm driving, but I can't even see. I'll stop and find a place to stop and turn around. Anyways, so something like ontological truth, that's a whole different discussion than the standard theories of truth. So like what I want to structure with those comments, critiques, arguments, whatever you might want to call them, is to get people to a standpoint of understanding that truth has to be ontological, that the concept is really the concept of the thing. Therefore, the whole epistemic divide is complete utter garbage and nonsense. So, the first aspect of a correspondence theory that people have in the lay view is that correspondence is the correspondence of a claim or concept to the facts, state of affairs, or beings in the world. And most people, you know, the standard everyday person thinks that way. That is the most obvious notion of truth that we have. Except when you think about it, it's not actually obvious at all. What the average person means by truth and what they intend to say by it is the communication of the actual state of affairs, facts, or things in the world. They're not talking about the relationship of my claims and my beliefs or concepts. They're talking about the things themselves. You know, the truth is what is. The truth is another name for the fact of what is. And what is that particular name referring to? It's particularly referring to how it is intelligible at all. So it is from the way in which we come to become we become aware of how it is that we become cognizant of truth. Well, that suddenly cleared up. Windshield's getting fogged up a little bit. Gonna turn up the heat. So in the way that we become aware of how we relate to truth, the idea that truth is epistemic comes about. We start to think that truth now does not belong necessarily to things as such, but rather truth is some kind of qualification about what I say, what I believe, what I think a thing is, the concept, and the fact, the thing itself. No longer do I say the truth is the thing as such. You know, when I talk about the truth, I'm talking about the things themselves. Now, when I'm talking about the truth, what I'm talking about is the relationship of correspondence between what I say, what I believe, what I conceive, and the actual things themselves. And this does not strike people as problematic, except for the fact that if you become aware of what we're doing with that, we still are intending to say by truth the things themselves, that we're referring to the things themselves by speaking of truth. So we have this tension between two aspects of truth. One of them is the facts or things themselves. The other one is the relationship between what I say and the things themselves. And that's where the correspondence theory first arises. That, you know, now things are true insofar as my claims or concepts correspond to the things themselves. Well, what's the problem with that? Well, the problem with that is that if you pay attention to what is happening and what I'm doing in the thinking and recognition of this so-called truth claim. Right now it's raining, and by the way, I just happenstance had used the concept of rain in the slides that I wrote. And it's not because it's been raining recently. It's also because, like, when I first thought up this example, I used the concept of rain. I don't know why. Just kind of simple idea. Just happened to come to mind at the time. But now it happens to be raining, so it's a good example. So you say it is raining, and then we qualify. Well, it is true that it is raining, if and only if it is the fact that it is raining. Therefore I look at the fact, it is raining, I look what I say it is raining. What I claim corresponds to the fact, therefore it is raining, it's true, it is true that it is raining. My claim is true. Now that assumes that I am just happenstance looking at the world, and that it is obvious to me what the world is. It is obvious to me that there is such a thing as rain. It is obvious to me that there is such a thing as the world, that there is such a thing as, looking, observing, checking, all these other things. And that these unproblematically... Oh, there's a stopped car. It's a bad place to stop. Saying, we assume that it's unproblematic that these things are intelligible to us. How do I know that there is such a thing as rain? Suppose that I don't know what rain is. Suppose I don't have any experience of it, and therefore I have no concept, and I will not make a claim about something that I don't know, because I don't know what I'm claiming anything about. And suppose that what we call rain is happening. Can such a person recognize that such a thing as rain is happening? The answer is no. If I don't already know what I'm looking for, I can't find anything. If I don't know what I'm already claiming, I can't say there's any correspondence. It is not obvious to me that there is such a thing as rain, because I don't know what rain is supposed to be. This is like trying to interpret noise on a TV. That noise can mean something. As a matter of fact, it does. If you don't have the right instrument, if you don't have the right knowledge of how to interpret all of these, seemingly random, and they only seem random to us because we don't know how to interpret them. We don't know what we're looking for. So because we don't know what we're looking for, it's extremely hard, if not impossible, to tell that there's anything there. In the old days, people like my age, or in their 30s, still had tube TVs, in which whenever you turn on a channel and the antenna doesn't work, what you got was a bunch of noise coming through, and it would just be a bunch of these garbled dots, and gray, white, black, intermixed, and it pop in on the screen your tube TV, CRTV. Those things actually could, depending on what they were, actually be some kind of information. It wasn't just noise. But if you don't know what you're looking for, you can't see it. It's the same thing as those, what are they called? QR codes. They may just look like random, points to you and me. But actually they have a structure, they have an order, but I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know what it's supposed to be. So obviously I don't recognize anything, and it just looks like nothing. Just looks like, noise. So the point of that is, if you don't have some metric already to find things, you're not going to find anything. Rain only exists as an object for a being which has a conception of what it's looking out for as an object. That would be an object called rain. And obviously the rebuttal for this from a correspondence theorist is, well, that's asinine, AW. Of course, yes, if I don't know what a thing is, I don't know what I'm looking for, but the way we learn what things are is by observing them. I learn what rain is by looking at the world and seeing, rain fall from the sky. Water droplets fall from the sky. I call that rain, and now I know what rain is. And now, every time I check in the world, whether there is rain or not, I have my concept, which I got from experience, and then I check yes against my concept, but it's basically checking from experience to experience. So it's not an a priori thing. It's still very empirical. It's still something I got directly from the world. And that might seem convincing until you pay attention to how it is that we come to understand what is an object and what is not an object. People who believe in ghosts, both in the past and now, have a certain conception of the world in which it seems obvious to them that clearly ghosts are a valid object, that ghosts exist, and that they are a valid object of cognition, that it's not some fictitious object, some fictitious relation which I have projected on the world. No, they have reasons, given their understanding what objectivity is, what it is to be an object, what an object can be, and what... Sorry, heading over into the fog right now. And I'm going through the curves. Ooh, now I'm getting to the snow. Now I'm getting to that snow. Huh. Yeah, this is right about the last time. The last time I came here in the snow was, 2017, I think. And the moment I hit the snow, I looked at it, I'm like, shit, I don't have chains. And you're supposed to have chains because they don't salt the roads here. So you're definitely in a little bit of trouble. So it's raining on the snow. You're probably gonna get some sleet here in a little bit. And I'll keep going just a little bit further until I start noticing it gets a little bit dangerous. And if I get to a little standpoint where it's not raining, I'll get out and have a little walk. I'll find one of these little, what are they called? Turnouts. They have little turnouts where you can just park, and usually they're there for the purpose of not parking your ass, but of letting other cars pass you. Oh, there's a nice turnout. Actually, there's a couple other nice turnouts further ahead. Let's see if I can head there. Sorry, where was I going? Truth, objectivity, ghost. Yes. So, certain people. Oh, there we go. We might be getting a little bit of actual snow mixed up with the rain. I can kind of see as the rain's coming down. There seems to be a little bit of structure, but by the time it hits my windshield, it's already melted. So it's snowy as it's coming down, and then it's melting by the time it hits my windshield. So, objects, ghosts, right. Objects for the squeaky, squeegee. randomly commenting on the weather, but one, I have to pay attention to it too. It's nice. I'm actually behind a bus right now, one of those charter buses for those vacationing and travel things. It's probably taking a bunch of Asian tourists, because at this time of year, a lot of Asian tourists come to visit our mountains. And now we're getting to a point here where it's very nice. I'm actually going to turn down here. This is a very nice little turnout. I'm just going to park here a little bit. Actually, no, I'm not going to park here. There's a few nicer places. What was I saying? Objectivity goes, right, okay, my point about that is, people think there are ghosts based on assumptions of what it is that an object can be. For a materialist, for example, a ghost is impossible. Because according to their metaphysics, what is a possible object is not going to allow for what people say ghosts are. So, given what they think an object, a possible object can be, they judge what counts as an object for them. So, just as, for example, we can note that something like a mirage is not actually an object, and is just a fictitious object that merely appears to be an object to me, but really, the only objectivity that belongs to it is the objectivity of the water vapor rising in the heat and creating an illusion. Likewise, such a person would say, well, yes, maybe a person saw something, and they think it's a ghost, but really, a ghost is not an actual object. What is the real object is, they might have seen a mirage, they might have just misunderstood or misperceived some vague little, vapor, floating through, but actually it's something else. So the ghost, despite the fact that a person can define a ghost and say, a ghost has XYZ qualities, and there, I look into the world and what do you know? I see a ghost. And you know why I see a ghost? And I know that it's a ghost because I've seen ghosts before, and I got the idea of a ghost from ghosts. Alright, it says chains required up above. I'm going to turn around real quick. Now, it's not absolutely required because I'm looking at other people who clearly don't have chains, and they probably, most definitely do not have snow tires. But nevertheless, I will keep going just up to the point where it's safe. I mean, the real dangerous thing here is, right now the road is nice and clear. There's no snow, but the real danger is black ice. So yeah. Don't worry, folks, don't worry. Ooh, now it's getting a bit hot here. I try to be safe. But now you can start seeing that there is a little bit of snow mixed in on the road here. It is no longer raining. So I will find a little turnout and I will see if I can go traipsing in the snow. I wish you could see this. This looks so nice right now. That's a turnout. That's a very small turnout. and there's nowhere to traipse. Just a little bit of snow. Sorry, I stopped full self-commentary, trying to pay attention to the road. Just as soon as I can. Well, actually, you can already see it. You can already see on the side of my window. There is most definitely snow. Very nice. You know what's funny is I've lived here 33 minus 7, 26 years. I've lived in this area for 26 years. Only 4 times have I come up to the snow. The first time was in 4th grade, and now we're heading into the sleet. So the next turnout, I'm gonna get out and see if I can do a little bit of walking. If not, I will actually just start heading back, because this is where stuff starts getting dangerous if you're not readily prepared. Let's see. By the way, if any of you know any good jackets that I could get online, or any good jacket brands, let me know, because I had this wonderful jacket that I had years ago, almost a decade ago. That was the best jacket I've ever had. Got it for $50 from, what is it? Five something. It's a sports chain store. And it was, I had the brand of it, but the brand apparently doesn't exist anymore. And there were other jackets that looked like it, but they weren't it. And that jacket was really light, waterproof, had a bunch of pockets, very light, very comfortable, and super warm. And the only reason I got rid of it is because the zipper broke. And I am utterly incompetent. So I could not fix the zipper for the life of me. You know, I saw there were zipper kits and stuff you can buy online. I could not figure it out. And I was too lazy to, I would thought that it would be too much to go to a tailor and go like, can you just fix the zipper on this thing? They probably would have charged me $50, and I'm like, I might as well just get a new jacket. So I ended up getting this one. But this one, it's nice, it's all right, but it's not waterproof, and it's not as light as the other one. It cost $50 as well. So, anyways, if you got a hookup, let me know. Let's see how this goes. We got a little bit of sleet. All right, now. Too bad I can't change it to the double camera thing. That sucks. But oh well. Definitely feel that snowiness. And feeling like a kid again. Actually, the last time I saw snow was, ooh, I mean, look at this powder. Fine powder. I don't even know if you can see the fine structure that it's, oh, beautiful. Caravan of people going up here. Well, a lot of people like the snow. I mean, it's pretty neat. Anyways, what was I saying earlier? Yeah, I've only to finish the many thoughts that I've been having. Let's see. I mentioned the thing about it, living here for 26 years. I've only been in the snow like 6 times here. The first time I went in 4th grade, I was like, what? 4th was 10. I was 10 years old. Went on a school field trip. Did some skiing. Didn't have much fun because I did not go prepared. I did not have anything for the snow. I took, those like little like they're not even wool mitts. They're kind of cloth mitts. They're porous and everything. Put on 3 layers of those. 1, 3 layers of those. Hardly can move your hands. 2, they don't work with snow. They don't keep you warm for shit. So skiing. I went and just froze my butt off. Froze my hands off. I went up to like the very up the ski lift. Came down. It took me about 20 minutes. Going very slow. But by the time I got down, I could not feel my hands, and I went directly to the bathrooms and just ran hot water for like a couple of minutes before I could feel my hands. Yeah. And then the next time I went, I was like, it was about 2012, 2014, 2015. Yeah, that was 2015, almost 10 years ago, 9 years ago. And I went with somebody else, and I went up to Yosemite. Now, Yosemite, that was the first time I'd gone to Yosemite. I've lived here 26 years, and I had gone nowhere because, well, my parents are not people that go anywhere. My parents sometimes went to the local parks and whatnot, and the local being the stuff that's 20 minutes away, and the cheap ass small lake and whatnot. But that's still fun. They never actually wanted to go. They hated going out more than an hour and doing the whole thing. One, you pay it's not that cheap to get inside the national parks here, but it's also not that expensive. So I never went to Sequoia National Park. I never went to Yosemite. 2015 was the first time I went, and it was snowing like this. And Yosemite in the snow is fan-fucking-tastic. It looks great in the summer. It looks even better in the winter. So if you're into photography, it's just beautiful. It's definitely a place to go, for sure. Now, I would love to be able to walk down there, but I cannot tell what the depth of these are. So as you can see, it's very deceptive. Now, sometimes I get the feeling of being a child again, and I'm like, it looks like it'd be kind of cool to eat some snow, but knowing the kind of pollution we have in the air these days, nah. But yeah, not much here that I can walk around. Definitely can't walk up. That may not look steep to you, but it is very steep. And there's no room to walk on the side. And these little mounds in front of you, I don't even trust that you can actually walk on them. Whew, I already got some snow. Look at that. Very nice. Oh, that's satisfying. That is oh so satisfying. And whoa! Let's get back in the car. And as I am seeing, this is still solid enough. Well, not solid enough. It is wet enough that it should not be a problem. Let's see if we can find some other turnout that may make this interesting. Ooh, you can feel the temperature difference. Alright, accidentally cut the video. This will definitely have to be spliced together. Alright, we got enough views of that. Let's finish off the stuff on truth. That should have been done a long time ago, but I'm enjoying myself today. So yes, the correspondence theory has the problem of presupposing what an object is, and then looking out in the world and making an object of anything that matches the structure of an object, giving it a name and then saying, there you go, that's an object. And now that I know that's an object, because it fits the concept of an object, I have a concept of a specific object, but not a general object. And I can make a claim, and I can say that, things are true because there's an instance of an object that matches the concept of the object that I have. Now, obviously, that is no longer the correspondence theory that's normal. Now, this is not a correspondence to fact. Now, this is a correspondence of fact to concept. And that's what's really going on in the regular correspondence theory. What one is actually doing is always actually matching an instance to a concept. These visuals are still so nice. I mean, the snow is beautiful, and this is just beautiful too. Just a beautiful day. Lovely day. So you have a theory now of a correspondence to concept. Just because you think something is an object, and you have made objects, you have defined objectivity in general in a certain way, and now you have defined some sub-objects that you think fit your general criteria of an object. Can you now say, now I get to make claims on truth? Well, given that the intent of truth is that you're supposed to be like saying something that is actually the case, something that is the facts themselves, that, because the facts themselves are the truth, not what I think the facts are, not what I believe the facts are, not what I project they are, but what the facts are, what things really are. So suppose that I do define things in such a way that I think that there are ghosts, because my concept of objectivity allows ghosts, is broad enough to allow ghosts, or specific enough to allow something like ghosts to be intelligible to me as an object. Well, does that mean now that I could say it is true that ghosts exist? No. That's no more than like saying, well, I define, the itch in my left toe is the red storms on Jupiter, the big red storm, as the object kadibda, and therefore kadibda is true because there's an itch in my left toe, and there's the storm, on Jupiter. When I say kadibda is true, I'm saying, well, there is, in fact, an object that is kadibda. But is that actually an object? Well, no. There is no such object. There is no unity in the world that is an objective unity that actually, fits the bill of an object. Because, what we mean by an object is not something that I subjectively make up. What I mean by an object is something that's independent, independently existing, independently self-making and determining, regardless of my whim and regardless of what other external objects may try to determine upon it, or may mechanically affect upon it. So me making up a unity, an arbitrary unity, that I just decide, and because it fits the bill of my definition of what I think an object in general can be, what a possible object is, does not guarantee that I'm actually talking about something true. That, just because I say like that two things go together, they don't actually go together. It's like saying that because you put some kind of painted design on chicken, that now I've decided that the unity of the paint of the chicken counts as a chokin or something, and therefore when I say the chicken is a chokin, that is true. Well, there's no such thing as a chokin. That's just an arbitrary that I made up. That's nothing real in the world. It only exists insofar as I make it exist. And even when I say I make it exist, I'm not really making any such thing exist, because it's not a real thing in the first place. It's just two independent things, paint and chicken, brought together. But the unity is not necessary. It's not actually. It's two objects still. They don't form one single object. In fact, neither the blue is essential to the chicken, and the blue paint is essential to the chicken, nor the design is essential to the chicken, nor is the chicken essential or the design essential for the blue paint. I'm twisted over my words today. Well, no, it's every day. So, truth by definition in this way does not work. It doesn't do what we intend truth to say. So it doesn't really qualify as truth, because if that were the case, then you could just say anything and everything is true by definition. And there are indeed stupid people with PhDs who will make this argument. Like they will tell you that they will call this position trivialism. And say, well, look, by definition, everything is true. If you define it and then you say there's an instance of it, that's all it is. And somebody says, well, how do you know that's true? Well, because I define it that way. I mean, that's just a stupid measure. We don't want, when you have something as a concept, what you're trying to do is determine it, and determinations mean a distinction from this to that. So if everything falls in, your concept doesn't even count. as a concept at all. It's not meaningful. When we talk about truth, we're talking about very specific things. So that triviality doesn't work. So correspondence can neither be an empirically given thing, because it always depends on my implicit or even explicit conception of what it is to be an object in general, and what I choose out in the world as fitting that form, and therefore me giving it the name of a specific object and claiming that it is an object, because I don't know that it is an object. The way that I'm working within that mode is I'm just defining things, and then I'm just saying, well, because I defined it, it is a thing. But we know that that's not the case. Plenty of people think and believe. Yeah, they do think and believe that certain things are objects, which are in the end not objects at all. We thought that epicycles were actually a thing. Well, it turned out they're not a thing. There was certain phlogiston theory of combustion to explain fire, to the burning of things, and we found out, no, that's not really a thing. So there's plenty of times in which we have pseudo-objects that we project. God, I feel like having beef jerky right now. Completely random thing. I keep getting the smell of beef jerky, just like momentarily, like for a fraction of a second, pass through my nose. Feels enticing. Getting a little bit of rain. So yeah. So given that we don't get the measures of what makes a thing true from the empirical, but rather the measure is some kind of concept or claim or definition. And given that just an immediate definition of I say such and such randomly out of nowhere, abstractly, unrelated to anything else, immediately, would make everything trivially true just by definition. There's got to be something more. Now, the coherence theory of truth is another alternative theory of truth that people oppose to the correspondence theory. Now, I want you to note that I gave you two correspondence theories. One of them is a correspondence to fact, and another one is a correspondence to concept. One of them is in a objective mode, one of them is subjective mode. What the subjective mode reveals is that the objective mode is nothing but a false view. The correspondence to facts always reduces a correspondence to concept, no matter what. That's what's really going on. So where does coherence come about? Does somebody just decide, well, correspondence sucks, let's just have another option? No, coherence actually comes about necessarily as an answer within the correspondence theory. So if the correspondence theory is not a correspondence to like a given fact, and it seems to me that it's the facts that have to correspond to the concept, and the immediate concept, the concept in abstraction, isn't meaningful, because guess what? Everything is interrelated. This becomes now an a priori issue. It's no longer an empirical issue. The issue of coherence is now, not only does my claim not originate in the empirical, it originates with some kind of a priori conception about what it is to be objective and the kinds of objects that there are. There is a given experience in which nothing is immediate. Everything I see in the world, everything I experience is interrelated. It is not immediate in any way. So if truth is the facts, the actual being of things, then I can see that the facts are interrelated. The world is one interrelated, coherent system of interrelationships. Therefore, I have one measure now, and it's based on understanding. And what is understanding based off? People typically will say it's actually based on our logical thinking. Logic. It's based on logic. And most people think logic is what? Well, they think it's formal logic. So coherence, rather than being an empirical epistemic theory of truth, now becomes a logical theory of truth. But it's a formally logical theory of truth. That because I'm trying to do philosophy, I'm trying to understand things, I'm obviously trying to think. And to think is to think logically. There is no other kind of thinking. If you're not thinking logically, you're not thinking at all. You just have like random things mishmashed together and claiming that these are things when they're not. Claiming that there are like logical links, that there's a cause and a consequence when they're not. And all these other things. So coherence takes into account that obviously a concept has to be defined in some kind of differentiated manner. It has to be defined interrelatedly, internal to itself, but still interrelated to in some manner within itself. So like an apple is fruits, from a certain kind of genus, blah blah blah. It has a certain kind of shape, color, texture, flavor, etc., etc. Now the first test about is this even a valid candidate for truth? Is this definition as such even a coherent definition? And what do I need for coherence? Well, I need, if I say that it's square, I can't say that it's round. If I say that it's red, I can't say that it's blue. If I say it has color, I can't say it doesn't have color. It's a colorful, colorless thing. No. So at the minimum, I can't have self-contradictions, and I can't have also non sequitur things. Insofar as I link things, I must, in this case, sorry, I just passed a cop and just looking back to make sure he doesn't pull out and come after me. Technically, the highways in California, you ought to go 60, but I'm just going 70. Now, most people will go 70. But when you're alone on the road, usually you want to play it safe and just go 60. It's always safer to break the law together in groups than to break it alone. But I should be doing 70 games. No, he didn't pull out. I've gone almost a whole decade. Nah, it's definitely not been a whole decade. It's been 8 years. I think I got my license back when I was 26. 26, yeah, 2024, yeah, 8 years. It'll be 8 years in August. And I've never gotten a traffic ticket. I got a ticket. It would have been a ticket for speeding in Michigan back when I was in Detroit. And I was only going like about 5 miles above the rest of the, because like in Michigan, like the freeways, maximum speed limit is 60. Here it's actually, I think it's 55. 60. And like the faster parts. But here in California it's 65. But in California, if it's like 65, if there's like 3 cars on the road going in your direction, people go 75 easy. 70 for sure, 75 no problem. 80 if you're being impatient. Anyways, over there I think I was going 65. And it's because I needed to get I was in the middle lanes and I needed to get out on the next exit, and I had only about half a mile to go. I thought, well, you know, there's one car keeping me from going to the right lane. So I just sped up to pass that car. As I was speeding up, I turned a corner and there's a cop, and he turns his light on me. And you know, since that was like my first week in Detroit. He's like, well, I'll be nice to you. You know, you're out of state. You don't know. All right. He's like, I'll just give you a obstructing traffic fine, which still cost me $150, but it didn't go as, you know, a point on my license. That's the only traffic infraction I've ever gotten, and I've not made any accidents, either caused by others or by myself. Thank God. I hope to keep it that way. But you know what? Eventually, you mess up. Eventually, they get you. So, it's gonna happen one day. Because, you know, if you're not following the law, somebody's gonna catch you. If you're breaking the rules, you're doing things and cheating, you're gonna get caught eventually. It's inevitable. It's like lying. If you're lying all the time, you're not gonna be able to keep the lie straight. Lying takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of memory, and ain't gonna happen. Eventually, somebody's gonna catch you. Somebody's gonna be paying attention. They'll know you enough times that, you know, like, they'll remember and you won't. Anyway, sorry, that's a tangent. Various tangents. Now, where was I? Coherence. Yes, coherence of a concept. So your concept has to be coherent. It can't be contradictory, and you can't have non-sequitur aspects of it. If you apparently do, then you better like find some explanation of why these links are together. So there has to be a coherence, a non-contradiction, and there has to be some kind of immanent logic that connects these things, even in a vague way. So coherence requires the subjective coherence of the concept, but it also requires the objective coherence of one concept, claim, or belief with other concepts, claims, or beliefs. And this follows with the structure of formal logic. So you need a double coherence between like the internality of concepts, claims, or beliefs. In this case, let's mention beliefs, just concepts and claims. And you need the coherence of beautiful, right? And you need the coherence between different claims, different concepts that are united in some kind of syllogism, or a system of concepts, claims, concepts. So that's so far so good. The world is unified. The world is non-contradictory. I like it. So the world is unified. If the world is contradictory, well, contradictions, one, don't make any sense. And two, you know, you can't have like an apple that is not an apple. For example, either it is an apple or it's not an apple. Both, it'd be like having matter and antimatter, and that would just annihilate. That would, practically speaking, result in nothing. In the nothingness of things. So the world could not exist. Would not exist. This rain is heavy. This is exactly what I love. It's exactly what I wanted. I'm going to pull out here and just chill in the rain here. This is another street where I've come before and I've done videos. not so heavy once, you know, you're not going like 60 miles an hour, but it's all right. This little road here is very beautiful. It's very nice to just come here, walk all the way down, and walk all the way back. If you walk the whole thing, it'd probably be about an hour in, hour back. Give me a chance to get to a little parking spot and regather my thoughts. Right, so far so good. If the world is contradictory, not only would it be nonsense, it would be self-destroying, self-annihilating. Now, to explain that is difficult and requires its own argument. And with this, I'm not actually giving that argument, but it is an argument that I do have and I can give. And I'm just gonna chill right here. All right. My hair's a bit messy. It's better. Anyways, so yeah, if things were contradictory, they just didn't work out. Must I explain it? I feel I have to. At the same time, it's going to take some time, and I just want to finish with the whole point of these arguments. But then what's the point of making these videos and doing these talks if I'm not just going to like elaborate? I mean, there's nobody keeping me under a time limit here. It's not like my phone is keeping me on a time limit. One, I can just make multiple videos, and two, by the way, I got a new phone. You might notice it. Particularly, you will notice it whenever I make those new videos with the two little screens, the front and the back camera. I have messed around with that a little bit, and I have noticed that those are much smoother and better quality than on the previous phone. I had an S21 Ultra before. I upgraded to the S24 Ultra now because they really incentivize people to trade in the old S21s. They gave me $1,000 credit, and this phone is $1,400. So upgrade just cost me $400. I was going to upgrade in 2 years anyways, because these phones break out by about 4 years maximum. They start slowing down necessarily. So you know, either I pay $1,400 in 2 more years, or I fall for their scheme, upgrade, and you know, maybe in 2 years, once like the S27 or something comes around, I'll trade this in again. And yeah. Anyways, okay, fine, I'll explain it. So a contradiction, what's the problem with a contradiction? Well, I've talked about it before in other videos. I'm not going to go too much into it. The logical problem with contradiction is unintelligibility. You don't know what you're talking about. You know, if you say X is X and is not X, well, which is it? Is it X or is it not X? You tell me go get X. Well, X is X and not X. Well, that's everything. That's the whole world. What are you specifically wanting me to do, get, or understand, or point out? What are you pointing out? Well, X and not X. But this is X, and then everything else is not X. You know, on that like simple X and not X binary, you know, unintelligible. I can't pick out what it is that you're trying to tell me. Even on a specific binary, you know, say like, you know, you take like, you know, the opposition of, you know, beauty and ugliness. That your thing is both beautiful and ugly. Well, what are you telling me? You know, what am I supposed to understand by that? Beauty and ugly basically cancel themselves out. And if you tell me, well, go get the beautiful thing, well, if beauty is also ugly and ugly is also beautiful, what am I supposed to bring back? I can bring back an ugly thing, but because the ugly thing is beautiful too, and I can bring back a beautiful thing, but the beautiful thing is ugly too. I don't know exactly what you're asking for. That's the problem. On an objective level, a contradiction, well, try to instantiate one. A contradiction is like a jamming of gears in a machine. It's like having a gas car and putting diesel in it, or putting water in it and being surprised that the engine gets bricked, that it doesn't work and it gets broken. You know, if the gear is objectively supposed to turn right and you force it to turn left, what you're going to do is just you're going to break that gear and the other gear that you were moving it against. That's all that's going to happen. You're going to destroy the unity of the thing. You destroy the unity of the machine, which that gear was part of, and you destroy the unity of the gear as, you know, a part itself. You break it. So a contradiction leads to, well, destruction, to the falling apart of a unity, inevitably, necessarily. That's why you cannot have an objective contradiction in the usual sense. Remember, I'm talking about this in the formal sense that most people understand. I'm not talking about this yet from a Hegelian sense. These are formal arguments taken from a common sense view and intuitions. And not common sense just as, like, you know, the common everyday man, but the common sense of, like, you know, the layman who's interested in these kinds of things and has some basic understanding of thinking and philosophy, which isn't a very high bar. It's not a high bar at all. It's very low, actually. Anyways. So the world isn't falling apart. The world seems to cohere very well and to maintain itself together. So it must be coherent. You know, by my understanding of coherence, the world's not contradicting itself. It seems to be coherent, harmonious, self-maintaining. That's what it is. It is one world. It's not two worlds. If it was two worlds and they were completely different natures and they were in one world, in the same way at the same time, this would itself be incoherent. And even if you have two worlds and you say, well, we're in one world and there's another world and this other world just works completely differently. Actually, it's the anti-world. It works in every way conceivably opposite. And as a matter of fact, go crazier. It's so different that it's not even anti-anything. It's unrelated to us. You know, it's just unfathomable, inconceivable, imperceptible. In which case, well, if it is imperceptible, unfathomable, inconceivable, then what you could tell me about? Then you're not, the thing that you're conceiving is not that world. You're just conceiving some fiction, because that world is so unlike us that you can't even reason about it. So even if we granted a person of that relativist kind the fact, okay, there's different worlds of different natures, but then that means that, well, they don't have our nature. They can't conceive, perceive, or interact with us in any way. There's no connection, and we can't conceive, perceive, or interact with them in any way, including rationality. You know, our rationality is different from their rationality, so we cannot conceive of any such world. So there's no point. That world, for all intents and purposes, doesn't exist. And we can't say, well, it doesn't exist for us. Well, we can't say what it would be for it to exist at all, to itself or to us. So, you know, we're just talking emptily. It doesn't mean anything. So ultimately, we're talking about the coherence of one world. You know, if it wasn't coherent, then it'd be falling apart. And if it fell apart in such a way that, you know, you have things that are distinct, that are absolutely distinct, they have nothing to do with each other, well then, these will not appear in relationship or interact in any way with each other, in any way, including the intellectual form. You could not conceive them, you could not think about them, you could not hypothesize about them. it is completely meaningless. They are complete non-beings to each other, and therefore, in each domain, in each one, they are all that is, and they are all that is relevant, and there's nothing else you need to account for. So the world is one great unity, and it's raining, and these fucking cows are out here mooing and eating grass. Look at this. Let's see. Oh, there's the rain. There's the cows. Okay. Got my phone a bit wet. Okay, that was fun. Or enough fun with that. What else? Ooh, there's a rainbow. It's not even that bright. It's not even that bright. Well, the sun's somewhere up there, and somehow the light's going right below the clouds so that we can get a rainbow. But there is a rainbow. Interesting. So, anyways, coherence has to be the coherence of one single unity. The world is one system of facts, of beings, which cohere in themselves and cohere with each other. Otherwise, they would be not. They would not be. They would be nothing. Given that, I have to measure that then the system of concepts, in order to be true, because the world is the truth. If the world is a unified system of different things, unified in themselves, coherent with themselves, and coherent with other things, because they don't contradict and they don't destroy each other, then my system of concepts must likewise do that. So far, so good. Coherence is an advance, clearly, and it is actually superior to the correspondence theory. This is something that I had never considered up until I had these discussions on Discord. Crazy, I know. But that's just how insights work. Before that, I had thought correspondence, stupid. Coherence, stupid. And I knew the arguments against each one. I had never thought about how coherence really is something that arises necessarily out of correspondence, and it really is an advance. It has greater intelligibility than correspondence does. But what is the problem with coherence? Well, the problem with coherence is the one that everybody knows. You can have seemingly different coherent systems. So which one is true? Which is the system that actually corresponds, or rather, which is the system towards which the facts correspond? And notice this, out of coherence comes the necessity of correspondence, because now, not only must I get the idea of coherence from the facts of the world and logic itself. Well, first it's from the fact of logic. Then the first fact is the unity of the world, which is not self-contradictory. And then it's the fact of my own thinking, of the objects which I pick out in that world, which are not self-contradictory. So that there must be a coherence between my system of coherent concepts and the coherence of the world of facts. And what is a coherence between a system of concepts and a world of facts? It's a correspondence. That's what it is. It's a correspondence. And it's a mutual correspondence. Because there's the coherence of the world and there's coherence of the facts. Well, the coherence of the facts and the coherence of the concepts. Sorry. Oh, there's a baby cow. They do not give a fuck. Animals will suffer a lot. Well, it doesn't seem... Whoa. Okay, now you gotta see. You gotta see this. Can you see it? Yes. Holy. Can I focus on it? Yeah, you can see it. It's actually more clear to my eyes. It's more distinct. Ah, that's beautiful. That is a very beautiful rainbow. Okay. So yes, there's a correspondence. There's a correspondence between the coherence of facts and the coherence of concepts. So far, so good. That is so close to what you need. But there's a problem. And what is the problem? Well, everybody knows that problem. The problem is you can have multiple systems of coherent concepts. You can have coherent concepts, coherent systems of monism. You can have coherent systems of pluralism. You can have various systems of transcendentalism, blah, 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 blah. Oh. Wow. Now it's very strong over there. And now I can see why. You can see that the sun really has come out. Wow. I hope you don't get too annoyed at this, but it's just so nice. For those of you out there who enjoy nature like I do, I mean, you can understand. You can. Here, let me show you again. Oh, look at that. Look at that. That's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, you get it. Oh, and you can even see a double rainbow. Look at that. That is just beautiful. That is just like... Look at that. It's right on its head. Those are the magical moments we live for. Those are the kind of things you catch, those special photos, and you can sell them to a magazine. And here I am, not taking the perfect photo because I'm making a video chatting about deeper things for you. Sorry, I got some water on my face and I can definitely see it on my glasses. See, if I just driven home, which I was originally thinking of doing, I wouldn't get to see this kind of stuff. So, you know, I'm always going off on the road, less traveled, and wasting time dawdling just in case wonderful things come up. So, yeah. So you have multiple systems of concepts. So what does that mean? What does that mean for coherence? Well, what that means for coherence ultimately is this deep problem. The problem is that coherence is incoherent. Because what is an incoherence? It's either a non sequitur or a contradiction. Insofar as I cannot bring... If these systems are not contradictory, then they can be coherent. And if they can be coherent with each other, then I can cohere them all into one coherent system. So that's good. But insofar as they are not coherent with each other, that they're not, that they state opposite contradictory determinations as their beginning points and the basis of consequence. I cannot bring them to coherence. So stuff that is not like, immediately logically consequent, but which is not contradictory to what I'm saying, I can bring into coherence with what I'm saying, with my system of concepts. But the stuff which is contradictory, I cannot. And the problem is that the contradictory stuff is coherent, but it's coherent with itself. It's not coherent with my system. But the world is one world. I live in one world, these people. These people don't live in like another dimension, where they're doing things that I don't do. They're interacting with things that I don't interact. They're interacting with the same things. They're doing the same things that I'm doing. So the world is unified. The world is one system. So why is it that I can't get reason to be one system? So in this case, the coherence theory, while having a good intuition and intimation based on the laws of logic and the way that works with what we ought to understand as necessary for the world's unity and coherence, does not work out for the unity and coherence of reason in general. I cannot come up with a system of concepts which is ultimately fully coherent because they are concepts which are opposite. And I cannot make those opposites cohere. If I try to bring them together, they form a contradiction, and that causes a self-implosion or destruction of rationality, and it makes my system unintelligible. Therefore, having multiple systems which are fundamentally opposed and irreconcilable makes it so that coherence, in the end, cannot cohere. And that's the end of coherence. So to recap, what does coherence have above correspondence? Well, coherence has above correspondence the fact that correspondence is based on abstractions of immediacy. Even when people attempt to have coherent systems that they're meeting it by. These always, the fact that correspondence is just logically able to allow for an abstraction in which somebody can just say whatever and, by analyticity, define it so and say, well, it since ultimately I can show that any claim that I make is really a claim that's a reference to my own claim, my own concept, by definition, everything I say is true. Anything I can say offhandedly must be true. Coherence is the next step. It says, no, it can't just be taken in immediacy and abstraction. You need to have relationships in your concepts, because guess what? The world is itself related. So whatever I say, my concepts must itself also be related like the world, because logic itself, intelligibility itself is related. If I don't have any relations to any thought, I don't have a thought at all. I have no intelligibility. So there's that. And the failure is, again, you cannot cohere different concepts. You cannot cohere arbitrary things, ultimately, which have different foundations. This leads to the issue in which we must ask, what is our concept of objectivity? What do we mean by that? Because the intimation, the drive, what we intend to mean by truth is still always the facts or things, the world itself, being itself, beings themselves. At no point does somebody rational really bite the bullet and say, oh yeah, like truth is just like these things that, by definition, I said, that's what truth is measuring. No. Only stupid people who have been academically trained believe such stupid garbage. The average person, thank God, is not so stupid. They only become stupid when they're educated stupid by these people who have PhDs and call themselves teachers and literally abuse people's minds by teaching them garbage because they themselves don't think, so they teach other people to not think. Oh, the rainbow's gone. Well, the top rainbow is still visible, but very faint. So ultimately, the fix for this is there must be something about concepts which is objective. There must be something which will not be based upon my subjective whim of deciding that I like this determination and not its opposite. I like unity, not difference, or I like singularity, not plurality. Because I can make a coherent system of singularity, and I can make a coherent system of plurality. And well, why do I choose one over the other? They're both equal. They're both as coherent. They're both as explanatory. They explain the same things, but they explain it differently. Which one is true? Well, I whichever one I decide, I just prefer. That is subjective. That cannot be based on truth. Truth is one. Truth. The world is one. If it wasn't, it wouldn't be. If there was no ultimate unity, the things that weren't unified would not be. They would not be distinguished from each other. They would not appear to each other. They would be completely independent, subjective worlds. And even then, the very idea that they're independent, subjective worlds that have nothing to do with it is itself a contradiction, because now I'm saying that despite the fact that these are completely independent, they have completely different natures, somehow I, through the nature of my rationality, am overarching them and saying that I know for a fact that there are a plurality of such things, therefore there is actually a shared nature. I mean, that's just nonsense. So what does objectivity require? Objectivity requires something that is self-making, independent, and unified. And it cannot be based on, well, it just is, or I just say it is, and I define it that way. And I just have this aesthetic preference for this. So to link that, then you have the idea of what I'm measuring with is always really a concept. So, I don't even forget the world. I don't need to refer to the world of facts. The world of facts is a world of facts because I conceive it as a fact, because I have a concept of a fact and I can recognize what falls within the domain of facts for me to say, yeah, there is a fact. So we can forget the whole correspondence to the world. That does not matter at all. Now what matters is, how can I get the correspondence of the totality of reasons so that I can get to these contradictory positions. Contradictory positions. I do that a lot. I notice that where for some reason I just can't really, it's kind of like some tick or something, in which like all of a sudden like my pronunciation kind of breaks off midway and things come off a little like spoken really weird. Nothing I can do. You gotta suffer with it. Too bad. But when I notice it, I try to correct it. So you got to deal with pure conceptuality. And ultimately, this leads you to the problem of the science of logic. What is a concept in the end? How do I know that a concept is a concept? How do I know that an object really is an object? Is there an objective way to get rid of this problem, to get this monkey off our back? And the answer is yes. Hegel solved it. Hegel absolutely solved it. The intimation was there in all the German idealists. Fichte had a very strong intimation and had a view as to how it had to be solved, but he didn't solve it himself. Schelling also had an intimation of how it had to be solved, but he didn't solve it himself. And Hegel finally gave us the intelligible answer as to how to solve it. That's what the science of logic does. That's what the encyclopedia of logic does. It allows you to get rid of subjectivity, get rid of your opinions, and let's just go and see what things really are in and of themselves, for themselves. Not for me, not as I want them to be, not as they appear to me, but as they really are, and a purely semantic level of pure, which is the pure level of meaning as such, or sense, like the sense of things. I don't get what the sense of what you're doing is. That's nonsense, that kind of sense. There's a little calf over there suckling on her mama. The funny thing is, it looks like she's chewing on it. But anyways, so to cut this short, because then the full explanation is just going to go on longer, and I don't feel like it right now. I'm actually starting to get hungry. What this leads to is then we're going to have a concept that has to account for its own concept. It's actually imminent already to coherence. That coherence is going to be the coherence of the system of concepts and the coherence of the system of the facts. And where is this coherence going to happen? It's either going to happen in the coherence of the facts or the coherence of the concept. But coherence is itself a concept, and it's the measure of truth. So it's actually going to be necessarily the coherence of my concept, which is going to be identical to the coherence of the facts. So that's exactly what Hegel's philosophy does. That's exactly what the idea chapter is in the science of logic, for example. The idea is the coherence of the system of concepts, of the concept, and the system of the object, the system of facts. And the idea is the concept of the conception of objects and concepts themselves. So it's a self-conceiving concept. So self-coherence, self-correspondence, self-confirmation of the concept. That's ultimately the only shape of truth that is admissible. What is required for truth is minimally that much. It has to have that structure. You can have no other structure. All right, so I think I've gone long enough. This little trip has quite a few videos. I think this overall ends up being about 2 hours, because I did about an hour drive to the snow, and I did about an hour drive right back here, and then I did about 20 minutes of just walking around and shooting some other video in the snow. I'll upload those too, because it was nice, but those will be split from this, and this will all be one big video. Anyways, for those of you listening, hope you enjoy these. I enjoy these kinds of things. Just as I enjoy like walking around and talking, I enjoy driving around and talking, even though it's very dangerous and I shouldn't do it. But it's all right. Out here in the roads are empty. The only one I'm putting in danger is myself. And even then, straight roads, easy. Curved roads, I slow down and pay attention. You can tell. Not only that, I just love looking at curves. Anyways, see you around.